What's up, everyone? Okay, so we are back with part 2 of how I knew that Nathaniel was mine. And if you have not watched part 1, please make sure you go do so a lot of things make sense, since this is a continuation of the first story that I shared on YouTube. And then second, let me just say one thing. My fiance decided he want to, have a whole production, record his video in my place, by the way. Record his video looking as good as he want to look. He made sure he had a haircut. Meanwhile, when I did part 1, I was just looking any old type of way. But that's neither here nor there. Glory be to God. Okay? So yes, we are here with part 2. And let's just get into it. Now, I want to just make a few things clear because I want to make sure that I am able to convey the full picture of what that season or what that period of waiting of the process really looked like. Now, sometimes people don't necessarily understand the pruning season. They don't understand, like, Lord, there's a lot of things happening to me. I'm stressing out. All these different things. People are saying, I need to work on this, I need to work on that. And that was a season that I was in last year. Last year was the definition of like humility check. Like, God humbled me real fast. I thought I was Little Miss Perfect. And then my friends and my family are like, no, Tia, you need to work on this. You need to learn how to submit. You need to learn how to take criticism. All of these things. It's like God took me on a fast course or a fast track to like, get yourself together, because Poppy is coming and you need to get it together. And so I really embarked on a journey of bettering myself, of being in tune with God, being more Christ-like, and it hurts, right? Like it's not easy. It was my pruning season. So I want to make that clear. Like, I really focused on bettering myself in every way that was possible, in character, in health, in weight, all of these different things. So that's the first thing I want to make sure I emphasize. The second thing I want to make sure is known is that I literally cut off every single person who I've ever dealt with, was dealing with, because people think that God's going to send you your spouse when you over here entertaining all these different random dudes that good and well aren't for you. Okay? God, like, and I forgot what the quote was, but someone said, like, how can God send you your husband when his seat is already taken, when his seat is being occupied by someone who don't even mean nothing to you? And so when I heard that, I was like, you know what? You gotta go. I can't even go to dinner with you. I wasn't playing no games. And I know it's really difficult, or it's tough for especially women. When men, they just want to take you out on some dates, and I like food, okay? I be liking to go get food and go out for free. But God said, you do not have time, because what if that at that moment where you were on that date with, let's call him Jacquay, okay? That's ghetto. Anyway, what if we were out with Jacquay, and that was the time that you were supposed to go to the grocery store and bump into your spouse? And so I'm like, you know what, God, I'm not wasting no more time. So I ended up cutting every single person who I've ever cut off. And it was just me and my big dog. And God spoke to me so much. The second thing that I want to make sure is clear. God told me in a dream that Nate was my spouse. God even revealed to me after the fact, after me trying to figure out like what Nate is it. God revealed that Nate, my now fiance, is my God ordained husband. But I never told him about the dream. I never told him about, my conversations with God. I never told him about anything. And a lot of women, and please, I beg, do not go and tell the supposed man that God told you that they are your husband. Please, you'll look foolish, especially if God did not confirm it to the guy. They're going to be like, what's good with this? What's good with this? So my number one piece of advice, if you truly believe that God told you that, or who your husband is, who your spouse is, wait for God to confirm it to the other person before you ever say anything. And even after God told Nate that I was his, and we've talked about marriage, I did not tell him about all of this until after our engagement. Because you can still look real foolish, because at the end of the day, these men or whoever it is that God has revealed to you, they need to obey God. And it's because we have free will, they can easily just say, nah, God, I'm good. I don't want to do that. So keep it to yourself and allow God to do the rest. The last thing I'll mention is that I spent hours on end in prayer. When I tell you, like, I prayed like nobody's business. And even if you look in the past video, I literally felt, or I spoke about how I felt like I had a burden to pray for my spouse, because I did. Like, God literally was just like, nope, you pray. Like, you need to start praying for Poppy. And so I was praying like a mad woman. And my first lady, shout out to Prophetess Leslie in the Kingdom Full Tabernacle International Ministries. She spoke about the prayer watches. And in these prayer watches, she basically taught on what specific things you're supposed to pray for at specific times. And so during the hours of 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. are the times you are to contend for your blessings. 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. And so that, coupled with a sermon that my minister had done, shout out to Minister Dom, he had spoke about going deeper. Go deeper with God. He was like, there are some things that you are wanting, that you are praying, and you have not seen them manifest. It's a result of your lack of sacrifice to go deep. And Lord, one thing Jesus knows about me is your girl likes to nap. Okay, I like to sleep. I like my beauty rest, all these things. And so I was like, you know what, God, I'm gonna try this thing out. I am gonna wake up at 3 a.m. for however long and pray over my spouse. And so 3 a.m. for at least a month and a half. And this is around like the October, November time frame. For a month and a half at 3 a.m., I got up out of my bed and I decreed over my marriage. And I literally wrote out a list, and I have it on my phone, of over 100 declarations concerning my marriage, concerning my spouse. And some of those things include, like, my spouse would be obsessed with me. And anything you know about Nathaniel Anthony, okay? That man loves him some me, okay? And so he will be obsessed with me. He will be a servant of the kingdom. We will not struggle financially. All of these different things I'm declaring and I'm decreeing. And now just seeing my life manifest and literally seeing the effects of my prayers here, it blows my mind every time I think about it. And so I wanted to make sure I highlight those before I continue. And so with that being said, let's continue the story. Now, I think the last place I left off was Nathaniel and I going to breakfast. Now, I had asked confirmation from God. I said, God, if this is my man, have him invite me out to breakfast. So when I went to go help volunteer with him, he knocked on my door and invited me to breakfast. And I was like, God, what is wrong with you? Okay. And so we went to breakfast and we're having conversation, and it's he and I, a group of us, and we're talking. I'm like, okay, like, cool, but still I'm like, God, I don't know. Like, I know the type of guys I'm used to. He's not the same as this guy. So I was just like, I don't know. I'ma just side eye it. And so I played it cool. That was that. I went home. And so I was like, I remember that week, I think it was after New Year's or something like that. And I decided that I wanted to, write out my goals. Now, if you remember back in the story, I knew where Nathaniel lived because I went to his house a year ago, or a few years ago, whatever that was. And there's a nice coffee shop that I frequent a lot that's right across the street from his place. And so I'm like, God, I'm gonna go to this coffee shop. And if I go to this coffee shop and this man is there, then I believe that, he's my husband, okay? And so I go to the coffee shop, I post a cute little picture on Instagram that I'm there, and I'm not even playing. Within like 2 minutes, I get a phone call from Nathaniel, because now we have each other's cell phone numbers. I get a phone call from him, and he's like, T, you right by my house, like, I'm about to come through. And I'm like, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, sure, come. I'm working, so I'm not gonna be able to talk too much, but come on and do what you need to do. So he ends up coming, and in my mind, I'm like, this is what's happening. And I just want to say one thing, y'all. I had on this nice jumpsuit, okay? I had on a nice jumpsuit, a nice, denim crop jacket, some nice hip. I was looking good. I was like, I just need to make sure he knows what potentially he's working with. That's another story for another day. So he comes to the coffee shop and we're having a good conversation. Things are cool. I'm literally acting as if like he's just a bro, like we're friends. And so we're talking about relationships and love and all of these things. And mind you, all of the relationship advice I'm giving him, baby, I'm making sure you know it's relationship advice for Tierra Amanda Monet Jackson. So we're talking, and then after we go get cake. And then we left it at that. And I remember hugging him. And I was like, don't worry, you're gonna find your wife soon, because we were talking about marriage and he was telling me that he really wanted to be married. And he was like, yeah, don't you worry, you're too good of a woman, like you're gonna find your husband soon. And I'm like, cool. And so fast forward, Nathaniel invites me from that conversation to a Bible study. Now the Bible study was so good, and I'm not gonna lie, I definitely had to show off. And anyone who goes to KFT, y'all have a different level of like spiritual revelation that a lot of people aren't really privy to. So I was ready to come with heat, okay? And so I get on the Bible study, and his mom was on it, his dad was on it, some of his close friends was on it, and this is the Bible study that Nathaniel leads or led at the time. And so I'm like, oh, I'm about to show off, okay? And so I remember, I think the topic was on like either relationships or something along those lines. But I remember I was speaking, I was coming with scriptures, I was coming with heat. And so the Bible study ends. He then immediately calls me right after the Bible study ends. T, you're such a dope and intelligent human being. And I'm like, wow, thanks, thanks, that's so sweet, thank you. I really, I'm just humble, I just do whatever God tells me to do. Something, cliche. So we then embark on a conversation on the phone. We're talking, things are cool. Fast forward, he lets me know that he's moving to Atlanta. And I'm like, God, how is that supposed to work in the plans? Like, if you just told me Poppy is mine and he's here, how are you just gonna up and take away from me? I like to, touch people. I need quality time. Like, how is that gonna work? And so I remember telling God, I said, okay, God. Now, I know you confirmed it, but at this point, I'm gonna need a few more confirmations, because clearly I don't know. And so I said, God, if this is truly my husband, can you allow us to have 3 quality dates before he goes? Now, I think this was early January. He told me that he was moving to Atlanta, and he was moving at the end of the month. And so I said, God, and what I mean by quality dates, they need to be minimum 4 hours. I say every single date that we have needs to be quality, where we can truly spend time. After I get a text from Nathaniel, and he's like, hey, I'm looking at these comedy tickets. Like, do you want to come? It's going to be 2 weeks from now. And I'm like, oh yeah, sure, cool. That was that. I'm like, okay, God, 1 date booked. Now, before we even went on that, I get another call or text, and Nathaniel and I are just like talking on the phone. And he invites me out to dinner. Ended up going to Rasika's, which is a really good Indian restaurant in DC. And we're having a good conversation. Also, by the way, your girl was looking good. I just want to make sure that I emphasize I be cute. I wasn't out here just looking like wearing muumuus and wearing no, I be cute. I was cute, and I made sure I had on these nice tight jeans, so I could look a certain way, and then I had a nice cute little crop top. Like, I was cute. So we're having good conversations, and we're talking. And part of me, I'm just still like, God, like, I don't know. Like, yeah, it's cool. Things are going well. And like, he's marking off this, but this box isn't really marked off, and this box isn't really marked off. And I'll share it again with him what that was. But I'm like, God, I really don't know. I remember leaving that date, and I was like, okay, God, yeah, since, I didn't like this, that, and that, he's not the one, and I'm gonna just cut him off. Mind you, God, I'm sure God was just up here like, what is wrong with this fool? Okay, please, what is wrong with this fool? After I left that date, and mind you, we didn't just go to dinner. We went to a speakeasy, and we were out for at least like 5 hours, okay? We were out for at least 5 hours. And I remember leaving the day like, okay, God, he's cool, but, I didn't like this, that. So I'm going to just cut him off. And I remember when I felt that, I had told one of my really good friends, I was like, you know, this is how I feel. I remember leaving that conversation ready to just be like, okay, yeah, me and Nathaniel, that was that. I was probably deceived. I probably didn't really hear from God. I mean, I know I've been hearing from God, but maybe that time I didn't really hear too well. I went home that day. And again, I remember in the beginning when I was talking about being burdened, I was so like troubled when I like made that decision. Because I made that decision in my heart. I said, yeah, I'm gonna just talk to, these dudes, they come a dime a dozen. Okay. So I was like, I'm gonna just talk to somebody else. And I remember feeling so troubled. And I'm like, Lord, what is it? And so whenever I feel that way, my number one response is always prayer. I remember it was a weekend. I was like, I'm gonna clear my day, clear my schedule, and I'm gonna just pray. Now, before I even get into prayer, I go to my mom and I'm just telling her about like what's happening. And she was like, oh yeah, you're not ready for marriage, because if you're willing to give up because of X, Y, and Z, and you're not willing to war for your marriage, yeah, you don't need to be preparing you don't need to be getting married anyway. And I was like, okay, whoa, okay. And so I was like, let me just go and ask my big dog. Let me go and ask God what's up. And I promise you, I was ready to pray for like 3-4 hours. And I went and I was praying. And after 10 minutes of me just speaking in tongues, God's like, girl, I'm sick of you doing this. Like, you can't keep doing, like, so clearly, like, you can't keep doing this. And in that conversation we had, he literally just began to download. And when I mean download, he told me about Nathaniel's future. He told me that he's a king. He even said something so specific, which is why just the proposal, the timing of it is so crazy. During that time of prayer, he said, in 6 months, you will see. In 6 months, you will see. And the date I have on that journal entry was January 17th. Your girl got engaged July 17th, which was 6 months after that time. But that's not even, the story just gets even better. And so I'm like, okay, God, I'll go ahead and talk to the man. Okay, cool. Like, you don't have to, yell at me and all of that. After I talk to God, immediately after, I get a call from Nathaniel. And we had such a good conversation. And I remember like, oh, I like this man. It really was just, I think God was just trying to get me to a place where I could be open to receive again, like what it is that he wanted. Because I already went into it with my own thinking, with my own desires, with my own thoughts. And God was like, girl, you need to get to a place where you're like, I don't care what I want. It needs to be what you want, God. And that's where I was after that prayer. And immediately Nathaniel calls me. And we're talking about marriage, we're talking about love, and we're talking about all of this. And now, while this is all taking place, this was the week that we were supposed to be going to the comedy show. So after we hang up, I went to God again. I said, okay, God, if this is really my man, okay, if this is truly my husband, I need this comedy show to be canceled because I need to spend some good time. I don't want to just be listening to a comedy show. Your girl likes to chat. So I want to be able to talk to him. I wrote that down and I can't wait because I got receipts. I write everything down, And I wrote that prayer down and I remember meeting Nathaniel at his house because we're getting ready to go to the comedy show and I'm dressed. I'm looking good. I had these thigh-high boots on, this nice, cute little dress, like fine. So fine. Nathaniel and I at this time are still just like friends. And I use air quotes because we both knew that like we liked each other a little bit. And I remember he looked up and he was like, wow, you look very beautiful. And I was like, oh, thank you. And in my mind, I'm like, okay. So we're getting ready for the comedy show where we walk out the door. I kid you not. Bing! Nathaniel gets a notification on his phone. Dang, T, the comedy show just got canceled. And in my head, I'm like, God, what is wrong with you? Like, how are you about to be answering me like that? Like, that is just unheard of. In my head, I'm like, okay, cool. Let's just go to DC. Let's have a nice time in DC, and let's make something out of nothing. And so we end up going to Agora in DC, and that was just a wonderful time. And I'm gonna snitch on Nathaniel because he was being fresh on the date. He was like, he had came and sat next to me and was like looking at me up and down. Like he was just, you know, I'll talk about that another time, but he was being fresh, okay? And so I remember he told me that he liked me. I told him that I liked him. And then it just like sparked something big because like I liked him a lot. He liked me a lot. And it was just nuts. So again, mind you, I asked God for 3 quality dates before he left for Atlanta. After that, we began hanging out like here and there, but it was like quick. Like, let me see you real fast or whatever. And then I think it was January 28th where Nathaniel had asked me to meet his parents. And I was like I barely know you. You know, like I don't even know you that well. You want me to meet mommy and daddy? I don't know. And I remember going to my pastor and I was like, Lady Rhoda, Minister Dom, like this is happening too fast. It's too good to be true. And they're just looking at me like, girl, all that praying and fasting you've been doing, and now all of a sudden you mad when it starts to hit you in the face. No, like that's ridiculous. You need to just receive what it is that God is sending you. And so I ended up going to meet his parents, and I love his parents so much. I do. I love his dad, I love his mom. I just love his parents. And that was the date where Nathaniel told me he loved me. And we kind of sparked from there. And now that date was, I think, 5 hours. So not only is, even in the interim, God is confirming all these things, but God is just like answering back to back to back. And I'm just like, God, you are so faithful. You are so faithful. And part 3 is coming up because I ended up bringing Nathaniel to church. He joined my church. All these things happened in the meantime, and the man ended up proposing after the fact. And so stay tuned. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and peace.